oracles. So, what can we expect in the market this week? We do have quite a few things that are going on that could move the market one way or the other, some company specific things and some macro environment things. So, we'll discuss those things that we're going to be seeing this week when it comes to the market and what we could expect the market to potentially do with all of these things that are going on. Now, before we get started, if you guys could do me a favor, just please hit that like button down below, subscribe to the channel, really helps the algorithm and grow the channel here as well. All right, so the things that we can expect going on this week. We have a few different AI type events that are going on. We've got some inflation data coming out with the CPI and PPI, and we are going to be having earnings season starting to kick off this week as well. So to kick off this week, we have between today and Wednesday, NVIDIA's AI summit that is going on. So obviously, AI is the next movement, and as far as I'm concerned, AI is going to do for the world what the internet did back in the late 90s. It's kind of, we don't know what to expect. We don't know what we can actually achieve from the internet when it came out. And now look at what it's provided for us today. We basically can't live without it. I think AI is going to be the next revolution and step change in all of that when it comes to the future. So obviously events like this with NVIDIA coming out with this information is going to be vital for the future. And it's obviously very early stages of this, but we could get some good information out of them. And so that's happening over the next 3 days. Today was day one of that, and we'll see what plays out and how the market reacts to that. I don't think it's going to be a major market mover, but it's going to be one of those information gathering type events where like, all right, well, what is capable? What are we looking at right now? What time frame are we looking at for these things to be playing out? And now we can sort of like kind of put those in our back pockets and invest as time goes on as we get closer to those time frames. And then next we have earnings season kicking off. Tomorrow we have Pepsi, one of the stocks that I own, is going to be coming out and reporting earnings. And then at the end of the week, we're going to be having the big banks starting their earnings reporting with JP Morgan. So between Tuesday and Fridays, really just the start of things that are going on. And banks usually lead the way when it comes to earnings. And then we get into big tech, and big tech is going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. So again, earnings season during October, leading into a major election, a lot of uncertainty going on. If earnings come out not looking so good, could be bad for the market. Now, because volume is also going to be lower, if earnings come out really good, it could be good for the market. And maybe we rally into the election, which is very unusual, but totally possible. So just things to pay attention to when we're seeing the earnings coming out. Follow how they're doing because the market could move a little bit stronger one way or the other. And next we have out on Thursday, two big things that are going on. First, in the macro environment is going to be the CPI data release. And so looking at year over year expectations, last month we got a 2.5% on that expectation, and now we are expecting a 2.3%. So we will see. And again, this is right around the level that the Fed wants us to be. So it doesn't matter that it's coming down a little bit more. It's actually probably not a bad thing considering there's some little bit of inflation scares that are going on right now. So to see this continue to come down is probably going to be a little bit of a reassurance. Now, again, it is lagging data, so we still have to pay attention to what the numbers are looking like going forward, but let's see what we come at this Thursday. And then looking at it month over month, we have a forecast of 0.1%, where last month we got a 0.2%. So again, deflation, we don't want deflation either because deflation is not good as well because that just means that everything is going to collapse and deflation is going to lead to lower earnings and lower GDP. And that just means recession. And we kind of want to avoid that. It's still on my radar, of course, but I'm protecting myself in different ways, but still staying more invested than not invested because you never know what's going to happen. So I just have myself that almost 10% cash sitting on the sidelines, just waiting just in case we see what's going to happen. But we'll talk about recession a little bit more and what my anticipation is for that. But as far as the CPI goes, a 0.1% is fine. We just want to make sure it stays between a 0.1 and a 0.3% month over month. And now looking at the core year over year, the forecast isn't on here, but the forecast expectations are 3.2% one more time. So we've seen that for the last 2 months, and let's see if we can get it for 3 months in a row. It would be nice to see this ticking down a little bit more and dipping under a 3%, but right now the forecast is again for 3.2%. So we will see if this continues to stay steady or if it's going to drop further. And then core month over month, again, forecast at the 0.2%. We've been very consistent with that. And if we can just hang at 0.2%, I think the market will be very happy with that. And I think the economy will be able to find itself a nice foundation and footing to then move forward. And now before we get into the last piece that's going to be going on this week, Just to talk about the recession, and my dad, I love the questions that my dad asks me because his, concerns as a father standpoint and just, how he perceives things, he questions things. It's where I get the whole notion of question everything. And so to him, it seemed like in the videos I'm presenting to you guys that I have a major fear of a recession coming, and I'm kind of overblowing that and maybe kind of over preparing. So I just wanted to clarify and make sure that you guys are aware that my portfolio has it set where I'm still invested in the market because I don't know. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the future. But something that has always caught me in the past is I was never prepared for any opportunities that presented themselves. So whenever the market was down and there were a lot of great buying opportunities, I never had cash. And if I wanted to free up any cash, I had to sell something for a loss. And this is why in 2019, I ended up losing money in the stock market because I wanted to move into better things and I didn't have the patience. And I would sell out of things for a loss because I moved it into other things that I think were going to do better. I didn't succeed clearly. So, in all of my wisdom and learning over the years, I have taught myself to make sure that I have that cushion set on the side. So, right now, I have about 9% cash. I'm building up to 10% cash. But on my way there, I'm still adding to all of my positions and constantly analyzing the positions that I have that, do I want to keep them or sell them or not? And so I do have a limit sell order in for my Oracle stock. And I discussed that in a previous video. But for me, I'm just kind of adding when there's opportunities when I have that cash that's free, but then still adding cash to my stockpile as well. And then once I hit that next level and I've hit all the goals that I want to hit, then I'm going to be adding more cash and I'll move that up to 10% cash. So I'll build up more cash. I do not plan on getting more than 12.5% cash. And I do think that the recession is probably about 3 to 6 months out if we do end up getting one. So there's still time. I don't know what's going to happen with the market between now and then. Typically and historically, the market has sold off a few months heading into when we have talked about it actually being a recession. But that's because usually a lot of times recession information and data that we get out is lagging. So usually it comes out and it says, hey, we were in a recession or we are currently in a recession and we've been in one for a few months. So the market kind of leads us to see all of that. So we may see the market start to pull back in a few months. Again, nobody knows the timing on all of it, but based upon the data that I'm seeing, I think it may end up kind of starting in the January timeframe, sometime in Q1 of 2025. So between now and then, I'm going to keep on adding my positions in my portfolio, but also stockpiling cash at the same time. So just wanted to clarify that for you guys as to what I am doing with my portfolio. Again, none of it's financial advice, just some wisdom that I learned in the past that if I don't have the cash flow coming in or the cash stockpile or both, which is what I'm kind of working on right now, when I see opportunities, I never get to take advantage of them. So I'm just setting myself up to take advantage of these opportunities on top of also making sure that I am invested in the stock market. All right, and now on to the last piece that is going on this week. And the big event for Tesla is We Robot. This is the robo-taxi event. And of course, judging by the name, it's not just a robo-taxi event. And Elon has said this many a time in the past that once they learned what the AI capabilities are when it comes to a vehicle, it's no different from a humanoid robot. You just have to train the humanoid robot in different ways and different parameters, but the actual learning and AI learning behind it is all going to be the same. So I think this event has the potential to be very much like the events of the past, where they're going to talk about things that are maybe 5 years down the road. Elon will probably talk about them being 1 or 2 years down the road, and then you have to make the decision for yourself. Do you think that's actually going to come to fruition within Elon's time frame or further on down the road, or maybe not at all? Everything he has talked about personally, I think are going to come to fruition. I just think that the timeframes are a little bit off. I think he's a little bit aggressive with them, but I think he does that intentionally. And I think he intentionally is aggressive with the timelines because he pushes people. Because if he didn't push these timelines, then it would take even longer. So, for instance, if he thinks that they're going to get done in 5 years, but he says 1 or 2 years, then maybe it gets done within that 4 or 5 years. But if he says it's going to take 5 years to get there, it may take 6 or 7 years to get there because they didn't have that fire underneath them. Very much like Steve Jobs pushing people as well. You push, 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 push. People tend to find that they can accomplish things a lot faster than they thought. So I think that's why Elon is doing this. So again, we'll find out more information on Thursday at the We Robot event. But obviously, they're going to be talking about more than just the robotaxi. The robotaxi is going to be a big piece. But even Elon thinks that humanoid robots are going to be much bigger than the automotive industry piece of Tesla. I think that energy is going to be bigger. The Optimus piece of it's going to be the biggest of all of them. And then, of course, we have Robotaxi and FSD, which the whole AI side of things between Robotaxi and Optimus is just going to make the automotive side of things look like kind of just like pocket change and some extra cash on the side eventually. I think that might be like 30 or 40 years down the road when we get to that point. But I think that's a direction that we're going to be heading. And again, I think we're going to get the very baseline information about that this Thursday. I don't personally think we're going to get that groundbreaking, hey, we're coming out with this stuff next year. I think Elon may talk about that. But again, you guys can let me know your thoughts in the comments below whether you think it's actually going to come to fruition next year, maybe 2026. I think 2026 to 2027 is very realistic. And I think a lot of it has to do with the technology has to finalize getting there. And we still have to go through the red tape of the government and all sorts of regulations and things like that. And until we get all of that approval and coming through, we're not actually going to see them on the roads on mass scale. We might see them in certain states where the approval is already there. We might see them in geo-fenced cities. That might be something that Tesla has to bend on a little bit and say, hey, we've already got Waymo and Cruise going on over in San Francisco. Tesla, you can do that there as well, but you've got to geo-fence it to just the city. We might see that going first and kind of coming out, but again, a lot of different regulation stuff that's got to come out. We just need to see that technology and say, we are there. And once Tesla comes out and says, we will take ownership of anything that occurs when it comes to our robotaxis, you no longer need to use your hands. We are level 4 and level 5 autonomy. Once Tesla says that, it's game on. But until we actually have Tesla say that, we're still playing that game of March of Nines, and we're not actually there yet. So again, this is one of those, hey, great buying opportunities for people who think it's going to happen sooner than later. Maybe we miss that buying opportunity and we're never going to go back down to 200 again. If we get a recession, I think all bets are off. Again, nobody knows what's going to happen in the future, but all I can say is that I do personally think that eventually we will have robotaxis on the road through Tesla. We will have Optimus and robots working in factories and be in people's homes in the future. And I think we will have a much stronger grid when it comes to all of the energy that is needed for all of these vehicles and Optimus. And I think Tesla is going to be a huge piece of that as well when it comes to energy. So I think down the road, long term, Tesla is going to be one of those great stocks to be in. But for me right now, I'm not adding a ton to it because I'm working on other areas of my investing where then I can add even more at a later time. That's my strategy. You guys do yours. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on that. But I will be going over with a video on Thursday to do a recap of the event, and then I can share my thoughts further at that time. And then on Friday, we'll do a live stream where we can talk about it even more there. So that's all I've got for you guys today. That is what we can expect in the market this week. There's obviously lots of other little data and things that are going on. We got the Fed minutes coming out this week as well. So lots of little things that could move the market one way or the other. But those were the highlights I wanted to share with you guys. You guys can let me know in the comments below what other events you think that are going on this week that could move the market one way or the other. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate all of your support. Have a great one.